What's up, everyone? Two mostly bald guys here. Today we're at my buddy Lloyd's shop. We're doing a full restoration on a 1968 four-door Thunderbird. We're helping him out on the mechanical work and he's doing the body work. Today we're doing a conversion from drum brake to disc brakes. It's a 1968 Ford Thunderbird four-door. Also known as the Glamour Bird. So let's go ahead and take a look at this kit and show you what it comes with. Alright, here is the kit. Comes with everything you need except for proportioning valve. Since we're converting from the drum to disc, the proportioning valve may need to be changed. The instruction says to go drive it after it's all said and done, and if it doesn't brake properly, then you need to go to the parts store and get yourself a disc-to-disc proportioning valve. So we're going to go about it that way. We're going to assemble it with the stock proportioning valve, drive it, and then see how it is from there. Comes with calipers, all your necessary brackets, emergency brake cables, and brake lines, and then all your hardware and new rotors. This kit is a DBK9. It's for the Ford 8.8 and the 9-inch rear end. It comes from Gearhead Enterprises Incorporated is where we got the kit. I'll show you the tools here in a little bit, but I know one thing: we're not going to be doing the manual pump up the brakes and bleed them that way, so I brought my air bleeder. And of course you're going to need a spring brake tool to tear down all your drum brakes and everything. But let's go ahead and start stripping down the car and get to work. Here's the car in its current status. But we'll go ahead and pull the wheel off. I'm going to assume everybody knows how to do that. So we're going to go ahead and pull the wheels off and get to tearing down the brakes. Alright, we got the wheels off. Now we're going to get the drums off. I'm assuming it's probably going to be pretty well stuck on here. Alright, well, the drum is free, but the brake pads are hanging on to it, so I'll have to go behind it, and there's a little window back there with the wheel that I'll have to take a screwdriver in there and loosen the brake pads. That way I can pull the drum off. Alright, it's kind of hard to see in there, but this is the window, and right in there is a little gear. If you take that, put your screwdriver up to it, kind of turn it down like that. This is on the driver's side. The other side may be different. There we go. See if that was enough to free this drum. Here you go, Adam. Okay. And it's off. Film? Yep. Alright, so now that we've got all this brake hardware revealed, we're just tearing it down. All this is going bye-bye. So I'm going to use my brake spring tool and start taking off all these springs. been on there a while. Adam, can you put your finger on the back of that? Push it.
So this side was broke. So if this car was still running on the road, that would be quite dangerous. Could be quite dangerous to you. And this side is just being pain. Oh, there it goes. Look at there.
Had to quit trying. There's the emergency brake cable here. Alright, get that out of there. These are just loose, and well, that one will stay, so we'll go ahead and leave it in there. But now that we got this done, next step, this emergency brake cable here, it's held into the backing plate by all these prongs, so you have to bend these, push these all in all the way around it, and then we can pull the emergency brake cable out of it. After we're done doing that, we have to remove this axle in order to remove the backing plate, because that won't be on there any longer. In order to do that, there are 4 bolts here, one here, 2 on the bottom. We'll undo those, and then we have a small sliding hammer. It would be better if you had a bigger one, with an adapter plate that holds on here. On the Ford 9, you just put the slide hammer on there and start pulling it out. So let's go ahead and get to that. Alright, as you can see, we got the bolts undone. The top one just came out. They do come out. We'll go ahead and put the adapter on there and use the slide hammer and yank this axle out. Fluid will probably come out, so go ahead and have an oil pan ready just to catch your fluid. Alright, so we got the slide hammer hooked up. And just start wailing on this thing until it pulls the axle out. There it is. Oh, forgot fluid. Alright, now that we got that undone, I'll do the emergency brake cable. Okay. Alright, we got that pulled. I pulled the puller off, pulled the axle out. Stand that up out of your way. Okay, I got ahead of myself. You can do this after you've pulled your brake parts off, or you can do it after you've pulled the axle out. It doesn't matter when you do it, but you got to disconnect your brake line from your slave cylinder. So on the back of it, you grabbed a bunch of wrenches?
Yeah, they're down there right there at your feet.
Lloyd. Yeah, that's it. On this car, 68 Thunderbird, it is a 3/8 for the brake lines. It's better if you have line wrenches, but this car is in really good shape, so we've been pretty fortunate that everything's coming off pretty easy. With that said, these emergency brake cables are being a pain in our butt, so I did end up cutting this driver's side one. The passenger side one, it came out with ease. Here's a better shot of the car. He's got fenders on. Still got a lot of interior work to do. But I'm gonna try to get some more videos out of this car. Unfortunately, I didn't do one on the front suspension work. I wish I would have. But and even those additional shocks and springs. Okay, so after you've pulled your axle using the tool that we just showed you, you're going to leave that out. Now, on this, we did have to have the hub machined. It tells you in the instructions that if you have the wrong size axle flange, you gotta take it to the machine shop and have them machine it down. What did it run?
$40.
$40 is all they charged him to get that done on both sides, and then that's so that this will fit the rotor. The new rotor will fit over that. So we got that done, and now that we've got this apart, you've got this kit here. It comes with a total of 3 A, B, and C, and they're labeled on the packages. BR9A, BR9C, and this is BR9B. You use this plate here, and you just got to grab one of them and see which one fits your pattern. We've already figured it out. It's the BR9B fits our car. Your car may be different. So you stick that on here. This is a spacer plate. Stick the axle back in there. Spin it and stuff. There we go. Now, take this. And there you go. And now, alright, you can either mount your slide hammer back on there and use it to knock it back, your axle back in there to seat the bearing, or be brave like me and just, it's in. And now that we've got that, you'll grab this bracket here, stick it back like this. Oh, sorry. Take that. Make sure you take these bolts here and stick them in the bracket first, because if you put the bracket on, you won't be able to get the bolts in there because your hub is in the way. So I've got them in there. You're going to use these bolts here, and then these 3 here, and oh, I did it backwards. Okay, stop. Okay, so now that that is back in, you'll take your bracket. It's got to face like this up towards the rear of the car. So it's these 3 holes here, this top 3 bolts. This bolt won't have one on, so you can put that nut on there. But before you put the bracket in there, go ahead and put these bolts through these tall, small top holes. Because once you put this bracket on, you won't be able to get the bolts in the holes past your hub. So just stick it in there like that. All right. Now that we got that on there, put all your nuts on these bolts, tighten them down, and we'll get to the next step. Okay, so now that we've got those, the axle retaining nuts tight, the torque spec, I don't know how you would torque these, because there's really no way to get a torque wrench in there. A torque wrench that I have would not fit. If you have some special tool that I'm unaware of, let me know in the comments below. But the torque specs for these are 50 to 70 foot-pounds. So we made them tight. There's no way we could get a torque wrench in there. So they're just very tight. Well, I guess they don't have to be that bad, because 50 to 70 is not that much. So now that we've got that all assembled, we're gonna go ahead and this bracket. You'll take these 4 spacers here and you'll put one on each of those bolts. After you got those 4 on those bolts, you'll take this bracket and slide it on. Okay, now that I've got that bracket on, take 4 lock washers, put them on each one. And so I don't lose them, I'm going to go ahead and start a couple nuts on here. They're locking nuts, the Teflon, and look, there I am dropping. I'm doing this blind. But after you get all those on, get them tight. Okay, there is no torque spec for these bolts, so just make sure they're really good and tight. They don't have to be like, you know, put all your muscle into it, but get them good and tight. So go ahead and do that, get those tight, and get right back with you. Alright, so we got everything tight. I didn't say, I don't know if I said it before or not, but the axle retaining bolts, and nuts. Those are 3/4 on this car. Yours may be different, but on this car it's 3/4. And then on the kit, to do these two brackets, those are 9/16. Now, since we've got that all done, tight, ready to go, the next step is to take your rotor and put it on. On ours, it's the smaller pattern. I believe it's this one. Okay, now after you get your rotor on, take 2 lug nuts at least, or 3, we're only going to do 2, and then thread them on. After you've got your rotor on, a couple bolts on there, hand tight, you want to spin it, and you'll look down the rotor and make sure it's true. That way you don't have any wobble or anything, because you might feel that when you're braking, whether it's a pulsate or something like that. We've already checked, it's true. So now what we do is we go ahead and install the caliper itself. That big old spider just tried to get me. I don't like them.
Big old fucking ninny.
Here's the new caliper, and here's the new caliper. Set that down. Take these bolts out here. They're not threaded in, so all you do is just pull them out. There's little rubber seals in there that kind of hold them, so once you get those out, push your little spacers back a little bit. Put your brake pad back in there. The emergency brake cable spot will go up with the bleeder screw at the top. So on whatever side you are, that's how you tell which caliper you got. It's got to go up and take it, put it on there like that. You'll put your bolts in the back. Slide them through. Then using a, let me see what size this is, 3/8 on this set here. If you get a different set, a different kit, it could vary. But this one's a 3/8 Allen. These are just like doing any ordinary brake job. Get them nice and tight. You don't have to over tighten them. Alright, we'll get those on, and I'll be right back. Okay, now that we have our caliper mounted, bolts are tight, it's emergency brake cable time. If you've gotten to this spot on this side and you just want to go ahead and finish up the other side, that's what we did. So let's go over here to the other side. We got this side all done. Sorry we laid that there, but that's just a new brake line that'll mount to your we'll get to that spot later for placing your brake line and your proportioning valve. But here it comes with 2 new emergency brake cables for the rear, but the one for your passenger side will not work because it's 2 of the same size, and the one that goes to the passenger side still comes over here and it wraps up and over and then down. So we're going to reuse the factory one on that side and use the new one on this side. But you've got this spring here, and notice how the new cable doesn't have a spring on it, but we've got it wrapped through there and hooked in, so we're golden. All we got to do is secure it to the control arm. We'll probably just use a couple zip ties so that we're not drilling into the control arm there. But since it doesn't have the spring on the line like the factory over here, there's the spring, so it'll make it return. So what we're going to do is this spring is going to come off because this cable is too long. Even pushing it, I'm going to have to get some lubrication on this thing. Let it soak. Pause it. Even with this cable all the way in, it's still way too long, and we still need the cable. I think with it all the way in, it still sits about here, so we're gonna have to shorten this cable. They sell new ends so that whenever I cut this cable, I can, and I think you have to put the new one on, then cut the cable, and it just crimps on there. So basically what I'll do is I'll hook everything up in the front of the car. I'll come back here and
then measure and cut.
okay, so after you got your emergency brake cables in and hooked up underneath, when working on your brake lines, we went ahead and shortened up the brake lines because now we've got the flex brake line that'll come back and wrap around and under to the caliper. Also, you have to do a proportioning valve, which there it is right there. We went ahead and got that mounted. In the kit, the instructions call for this proportioning valve. It's a PV4. The kit we got didn't come with it. I believe you can order this kit with it, so might as well go ahead and order it and order the kit that comes with it. But you can, if you get the kit without the proportioning valve for your rear brakes, well, this proportioning valve does your front and rear, but this runs around 65 bucks, and you can get it through your parts store. I'll try to find links for everything we've got and done and put it in the description below. Alright, so now that the brakes are all done, he's going to bleed the brakes. You always start from the furthest most point, so you'll start on the passenger or right rear side and then come over to the driver's side, rear, and then you go to the passenger side front. Your driver's side front is the last one you do. And you can do it the old method where you fill up the master cylinder. Always make sure you keep that full throughout the duration of doing this. So when you're pumping, you're bleeding, pumping, bleeding. You want to check it every couple times and make sure it's full. Because if you suck that dry, you're going to suck air into your system. So you got to make sure everything's full. We are not going to do the pumping method. I've got a brake bleeder that you hook up to your air compressor, and you just pull the trigger and it starts sucking. This is, I believe, Snap-on, or at least that's where I got it from, Snap-on truck. I'll try to find a link for it. That works really well. But you don't have to do any pumping or anything. You just pop this on the bleeder screw and have some air hooked up, pull the trigger, and as soon as you see a solid stream coming through, it's done. Tighten that screw and pull it off, and then you move on to the next wheel. But this really works out really well. I'll find a link for it, put it in the description as well. So let's get to bleeding. Alright, we went ahead and went around and bled all the brakes and got everything taken care of. We had to replace all the brake lines. Ended up being pinholes in the brake lines, so we got all that done. And once you get to that point, it's putting the wheels on and then calling it good. So hopefully this video helped you out. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. Like I said, I'll try to get as many links as I can below for everything. Make sure you don't forget, if you haven't already, to click that subscribe button, and you might as well click that notification bell. That way it'll notify you whenever a new video comes out. See you guys next time.